All right, what is going on, everyone, and welcome back to another special Black Desert video. So we are doing version 8 of our crystal setup. As you guys know, the big evasion DR change has happened, and I spent a little bit of time reorganizing all my crystals from last time. So I wanted to go over everything, and yeah, a little bit has changed actually from PvE. Well, not really so much on the PvE side, but I did change some crystals there. Obviously, the PvP crystals are being changed, and a little bit of life skill updates. So whether you do PvP only, PvE, or just life skills, I have a little bit of a setup for all of you. So yeah, hopefully this is a little bit more organized. I had to actually like delete all the crystal setups and then remake them, and so hopefully they're a little bit more organized. So yeah, this is my standard PvE setup. I do this for most grind spots that don't require like special resists mostly, but yeah, I think this could be a very good go-to one for generally everyone. And I will talk about crystals for beginners as well at the end, so if you're interested in that, I'll try to put a preset together for all of you. So yeah, this is my standard PvE damage. We have 4 ultimate Macalods. These are very solid. 2 Akrods, which are basically monster damage. Brutal Decimation, more monster damage. Rebellious, these are very expensive, and these are definitely not beginner friendly, so we'll talk about some alternatives as well. And Corrupt Magic Crystals, these actually went up in price, so if you got yours early when they were like 30 mil, congratulations, now they're like 200. So it's not really a big deal, it's just more than it was before. And then if you don't have a gear in, that's fine, just add another dark red Valor if you only have one, or the equivalent is the power ones, which is ideally just 5 AP. So for a beginner, some crystals I would recommend to all of you are ancient power crystals. So these ones, because there's no limit and they give 5 AP, and so basically if you don't have the other ones or you're on a budget, just get as many of these and fill it up because it's just 5 AP. So yeah, that's very nice to have. Like more on the higher end side of things, you could always add more, like depending on where you're grinding. Like if you're grinding a spot with humans or you're PvPing, you can get separate ones. But for the most part, I think these are just entry level Crimson Flame ones. And then yeah, it's pretty good. So yeah, basically what you're looking for is AP, monster AP, and you know, the Macalod set with Akrods. Admittedly, these probably are a little bit on the higher side, but you know, just when in doubt, get some of these. Anything just with 5 AP and you're good to go. So this is my knockback set. It's mostly for PvE when I'm grinding spots where knockback is important. Like I would say for me, knockback is Thornwood, which I don't really grind as much anymore, but if you're doing it for PvP purposes, we'll talk about that. You just add these in with the PvP setups. So basically the standard, except we have double fighting spirits for the knockback res, and that's it. Knockdown, same setup as this one, except we have 2 adamantines for knockdown resist. And knockdown is actually, in my opinion, one of the more valuable resist crystals, because you know how every CC has a different time limit. Like, how do I describe this if you don't actually know? So you have a 2 CC limit, but not every CC counts as 1. So like, for example, a stiffen was like a point something, whereas a knockdown is a 1. And so you can, as long as it equals up to a 2 CC limit, you can do a different variety of combos, and knockdown is the most damaging one in my opinion. So like, yeah, you're just on the ground for longer, whereas a stiffened, you can recover from that one faster. Anti-stun, we have double giants, and the stun is not really a bad thing. It's more just like a, here I'm trying to push my limit when I'm PvEing and I don't want to get like CC'd at all, and that like will cost a little bit of loot and whatever. Either way, this is not really a big one. I think I used this one at either knockback or stun at crypt, but I don't really grind there as much, but I still have to set up, so that's good. So you want to have like at least one of these depending on where you're grinding. Now I understand a lot of these presets are, you know, from the Pearl shop, so if you don't have all of them, that's okay. You don't actually need all of these, and if you do, you just swap the crystals in and out where you're grinding. So yeah, you don't actually need like 4 different sets. You could just literally swap in and out crystals, but I just have it for convenience sake. All right, so for the PvP side of things, this is where things get interesting because, you know, the big PvP changes happened recently, and everyone is big mad. So this is my PvP damage. So let me talk about this. As we all know, the idea for Pearl Abyss wanted to be DR is more or less on the same level as evasion, which, you know, that is going to take a lot of balancing to do. But now that everyone is tankier, more human damage is definitely more valuable. And yeah, you kind of like accuracy is getting played around with a lot, and we'll talk about that as we get to it. So this is the full PvP damage one that I use. It's more, I feel like it might be more popular now. Keep in mind, this is straight glass cannon, big damage. If you get hit, you're probably going to die. But yeah, so ideally what you're looking for here is human damage. So we have 2 crystals over here. Vipers, which is 10 human damage, and then you have 2 of these, plus 3 human damage times 2 of these, and human damage plus 5 times 2, and more AP and everything. So we do want to still have some accuracy. You don't need Jin Vipers anymore, but special evasion is a mistake in this game. I wish they would remove it, especially now with the DR and everything out of control. Special attack evasion just like kind of out of this scales differently. And then if you want to be a little bit more damage, you could use, what are these crystals? The corrupted ones. So you'd be more of a glass cannon. Or if you want to play a little bit safer, which is you're not like losing any DR on it, you would just get more back attack damage. It depends on what you play and what class. Like, does your class do more back attacks? Can you actually get back attacks on people? So depends on what you want to do. I think these are absolutely swappable with corrupteds. So depends on your play style. Basically, big damage. If you get CC'd, it's over, and that's about it. So I do think that human damage is actually going to be worth a little bit more now. So if you've invested in these in a while ago, congratulations, you saved yourself like literally billions of silver. Good for you. So this is my defensive setup, PvP defensive, and then you see a little defensive one, so it's a little bit different. So for this one, the goal is to basically have a little bit of a lot of defense, but with a little bit of offensive as well. So it's not like full tank, but you know, you can still actually defend yourself and, you know, do a little bit of damage on the side. So the thing we added here is the Magic Crystal of Abundance. Now, you know why these are special is because there's no limit to how many you can have. So with the damage reduction crystals, you can have all of them if you wanted to. And with the whole like renowned DR bonus that everyone got nowadays, DR kind of stacks pretty high now. So if you want to stack a lot of these, you can. But I wanted to add some like accuracy and a little bit of offense. That way you can, you know, more defensive, but still be able to do like non-zero damage as well. So for Ultimate Whooms, we have the purple tier. If you don't have the purple one, it's very cheap. You should buy one. But instead, you could swap this one out for a red crystal if you feel like you want more offensive. But keep in mind, this is a defensive setup. And then we have 2 crystals of Frozen Bitterness, more on the defensive side. You get 10 all damage reduction and evasion. The monster damage is irrelevant. Ignore that one. But it's more defensive. And then for PvP, Jin special evasions, very important, because special evasion nowadays is worth a lot. It's like your crits and everything, back attacks, down attacks, and whatnot. So like basically when people hit you with the evasion, it's not doing full damage, but you're avoiding the crit part of it, if that makes sense. So like instead of taking 10 damage, you're taking like 5 damage, you know? So yeah, that's it. And then more offensive abilities. This one is a little bit of a hybrid defensive offensive. And if you, I don't really see this used often, but it's just if you want to do a little bit of a mix. So PvP resists, basically, you know, like these resist ones that I had for knockdown, knockback, stun. This is on the PvP side. So like instead of the Macalods, we would have Hooms, and then instead of Akrods, which are PvE Crystals, you have the PvP ones, and then you have a little bit of like human damage and accuracy combined with the purple crystal. And then these are personal preference on which resist crystals you want. I have a fighting spirit and adamantine in here, so that's a mix of knockback and adamantine and fighting spirit. So like knockback and knockdown, those look the same for a second. So yeah, combine these with whatever you want. If you look at your crystals, you can see like I have fighting spirits and then giants and everything. So whatever resist you feel are important to you and your class, you can swap those in and out. This is my standard accuracy build. Admittedly, accuracy got changed, and this will depend on how many accuracy accessories you have. So in my opinion, the average is like 2 to 3 pen accuracy accessories for most people. If you go to 5 Debo route, you will have 1 Dawn Earring, most likely. But if you are going for the 3 Debo set, you're going to have 3 accuracy accessories. So basically, you don't need the Vipers if you have 3 accuracy accessories. If you have 1, you may need a little bit more, but these are swappable. I just added everything here because this is an accuracy set, and if you have less accuracy accessories, then, you know, you don't really need as much. So depending on how many you have, you could swap out a few crystals, but basically more human damage, and, you know, this is on the PvP side of everything. And then you could have double resist crystals if you feel like you need it. If you don't need it, you can swap it out for more offensive or whatever else you want. So yeah, that's about it. Evasion. I heard evasion is kind of dead. I don't know. I don't really play evasion as much. And as you guys know, Dark Knight is basically DR. But if I did play evasion, this is what I would use. 4 Hooms. This is more on the defensive side. But, you know, we have double Harpias because they give 20 evasion. Double Frozen Bitterness because it gives 12 times 2. And then a little bit of offensive with accuracy. And then we have 1 Viper. Admittedly, you could change this Viper out for literally anything else. Do you want more human damage? Add that too. And then just your other standard stuff. So your flex spot is this 1 Viper. If you are evasion, chances are you could probably add more damage, because if you are playing evasion, you are sacrificing a lot of damage for survivability, which also got changed. So admittedly, I don't use this one as much, but this is what I would use if I was evasion. Plus, I asked a few people who are evasion builds, and they said this is, you know, decent. So this is my more defensive build. You know, with the change, I thought I would add something like this, simply because people want to just play tanks. And if you want to be tanky and do like no damage, this is what I would do. So we talked about the armor crystals, the abundance ones, right? So there's no limit to how many you can use, and if you have them all, you can just straight up like stack as many DR as you want. I would recommend 4 Hooms because these do give a little bit of evasion and HP and all resist. I do find that a little bit more valuable than just like 2 extra DR. And obviously Frozen Bitterness, and then the special evasions, and then the purple crystal for more defensive. Basically, this one is very tanky, and you do no damage. That's about it. But if you like playing tanky builds, you're probably using one of these. So you might actually swap out a few things for like resists if you want to, but This is more just like straight damage reduction and, you know, a little bit of survivability from this one as well. So you can play around with this one. You could literally add all armor crystals if you're on a budget. I would recommend, if you are wanting to get them now, because they're going up in price. So let me just show you abundance. Where is it? This one? Yeah. So you see this chart? It's going up in price. Make sure to get yours. I don't know if it'll max out in price. Admittedly, in a week or so, we'll see what happens to it. But if you're looking to get it, you might want to get it before it hits the cap or something, or even goes higher. So that's that. Okay, so yeah, if you wanted to, you could flex out any crystals you want to. You could. I wouldn't really recommend getting rid of special evasion, but you could if you want more defensive. So this one is my speed build. This is more on the PvE side, admittedly. I don't use it as much, but you know, the reason why we have this one is more for the attack cast speed 1%, and then you get double one. So you usually don't mix these two glorious crystals because one is PvE and one is PvP, but I'm literally using it for the extra like 2% attack and cast speed, which, you know, if that helps your trash loot overall, it is what it is, and I think it's good. So admittedly, I don't use it, but it is one of those things where I limit test myself every now and then. So yeah, that's about it for that. All we have left is life skill stuff, so let's talk about all of these. Here's my boss bliss setup. So I don't know how many people actually do the Black Shrine or your weekly morning light bosses. Basically, it's very similar to my standard PvE one. The difference is that we have back attack damage, because if you do back attacks, which that's a lot of the bosses, it is slightly more damage in my opinion. And you don't also take the -2 damage reduction. Not that it really matters, but you know, mysterious crystals are a little bit nicer for that. So yeah, you can have that if you wanted to. This is what I use for it. It works for me. It may not work for every class, but it works for me. It's basically the same thing as PvE damage, but with back attack crystals instead. All right, so for all of you life skillers, full mastery setup, you get like 160. It is actually pretty valuable to get them. So we made a video recently on life XP versus mastery and how you guys can improve on your stuff. So in my opinion, I have a full life XP one and full mastery. Depending on where you are at in, like, you know, your levels and everything. So let me show you. We talked about all of this in another video. I'll leave that in the description if you want to watch it. It's pretty detailed. So depending on where you're at in terms of life skill levels, you might want to go mastery, or if you're closing in on Guru 50, you could start switching to mastery. But I talked about which life skills are important for everything. Some life skills you would definitely want more mastery. Some of them are kind of irrelevant, where XP is just, you know, the same thing basically. So yeah, we talked about that. So mastery, this is a full mastery setup. You get 160. And if you were to only pick one of the two, like mastery or life skill, I think mastery is a little bit more important overall. But life skill XP will get you to levels faster and then give you that permanent mastery when you go up. So yeah, it is what it is. The difference between this one is I have 2 energy crystals. So you get plus 10 energy times 2. And here's a little tip for all of you life skillers out there, or not even just life skillers, but just people who play all your different characters. So you know how, like, my energy cap is 614 right now. If you put all your other characters, like all the ones you don't play, in your energy crystal setup, their cap will be 634, or plus 20 essentially. So you might want to have 2 energy crystals, put them like set on your characters that you don't play, and then when you regen energy, basically the cap will be plus 20 for all of them. So just a small tip. Does it really affect you? Most likely it won't, but you know, just if you want it to have it, cool. And then the final one is combat XP. This is for exclusively when I'm AFK on a training dummy, or whenever a new season comes out. I generally like to, you know, power level myself to 61, And so just having a fat stack of like XP on here is cool. If you don't have a gear in, that's okay. Just add another one of these. All these crystals you can get from playing on the season characters, so you get 2 of them. And I believe they are... where are they? They're these crystal boxes that you get from every season. And yeah, you just kind of get them. So everyone should have them. If you are a new player and don't have all these crystals, what you could do is go to... You can actually buy them. Let's see. Experience. Yeah, Magic Crystal of Infinity experience. These are like 10, like very cheap crystals. They give 10% combat XP. If you're a new player and you just want XP, you can buy these, stack them. There's no limit, and you can put your full set in there until you get the 20% from the seasonals. So that's about all of my crystals. I want to talk about my artifacts and Lightstones a little bit. I'm just going to go over this very briefly because everyone is on a different scale of what they do. So for PvE, what I use for the most part is all-out attack. This is a kind of expensive one, admittedly. Getting strike crystals is definitely an endgame thing, not really a beginner one. So basically, it is big damage, big glass cannon, but getting to 2 strike crystals will be the problem for most people. So here's what I would do instead. If you can get basically species damage, depending on where you're at, whether it's like demi-humans, Comma-Sylvians, you can get actual buyable crystals like Lightstone Fallens. You can actually buy those off the market. So let me actually just see. Lightstones. Where are they? So yeah. See how strikes are basically sold out permanently? You can just get like exclusive other damage, like Fallens, like species damage. So I think that's all good and stuff. If you don't have the Kabua's artifacts, what I would do is just use the basic, what is it? Monster extra AP against monsters. These are basically very common. Everyone should have them. And yeah, that's about it. So for full XP, like we talked about before, training dummies, seasonals, you just put combat XP crystals on. I have been experimenting with Untouchable versus the Iron Wall, which is basically 4 damage reductions, which I think is plus 30 total. So basically all damage reductions, or a little bit of a combination between DR, HP, and evasion. So I heard that both of them are fine, but whichever one you decide you want to invest in a little bit more is probably more valuable. And so, yeah, I don't know. Depends on what you guys want. Do you want a little bit of a hybrid, or do you want full damage reduction and everything? I would just be like, here, get 4 Iron Wall crystal, or not crystals, Lightstones. Put them into a defensive one. That'll also work. This is also a little bit cheaper, admittedly. So keep that in mind. Lifeskill ones are very similar. The only one I invested into is Yawning Hedgehog. So for all of you gatherers out there, I do think this is actually the best in slot one, because you know, gathering item drop rate, very big when you're gathering, as you may imagine. Mastery, gathering XP, energy recovery, always nice to have. Admittedly, these are probably expensive things to set up, because I think literally every crystal or lightstone here is expensive. So let's... Plains, Forest, Fortune, Iridescent. Alright, so let's look at these. Where is it? Okay, so... Alright, Forest. Yeah, this is almost like $1 billion. That's kind of high. Plains. Oh, actually, this one's very cheap. The Forest one is expensive. Iridescent. We all know this is expensive, so this is at least like 1 billion. And then the Fortune one is actually, that's cheaper than I thought it would be. So 500. So, admittedly, to get the Yawning Hedgehog is probably like a 2.5 billion silver investment. However, I do think it is worth it if you do a lot of gathering. And myself, I do. Like, I'm almost Guru 30. So, yeah, I think this is worthwhile if you are mostly a life skiller. It's not super expensive compared to like your combat ones, but it is like a little bit of an investment. So this one is, I think, a very decent like entry level to mid level crystal setup. So it's called Death Blow. Basically, you get more AP against monsters and your crit rate increases, which might be good. All of these crystals are pretty cheap. The 2 blades are going to be, I think we just saw that. It's a little bit expensive, but it is a mid-level setup, and it's not going to break your bank. So let's look at this. 2 blades is, let's just say 750 mil, so like $1.5 billion for that, and then the other ones are very cheap compared to getting 2 strike crystals, which is like 10 billion, and you can't even get it. Whereas you can get blade ones, and it also does really fine. So I've actually tested it, and I've used it before. So back in the day, before I didn't have my species and super endgame crystals and lightstone setups, I used Death Blow. And for PvP, I just straight up human damage with that. So it's basically 28 damage. Wait, hold on. 24 damage. So basically 3 blights, iridescence, you get the 12 set effect plus another 12, so it's 24. So that's pretty good. So let me look at it. So let's once again, blight crystals are human damage. You're gonna need 3 of them. So this is like I've had this for a while, but yeah, people are starting to realize turns out human damage is pretty good. And then yeah, so I expect this to go up to like 2 bill each. So expect to spend like maybe 7 billion on the everything total, and then yeah, that's about it. So yeah, that's my setup. That's what I use for a lot of things, mostly for PvP, my PvEs, and then life skills. And we talked about all the crystals and everything. So hopefully you guys learned something. And this is just version 8. Things might change in the future. If they do, I'll update it as usual. But I think the most important thing nowadays is everyone is tankier. So people are probably buying out all the abundance armor crystals just to stack DR. And then the best way to go around that is more human damage and just like get more AP and break through that. And then for all of you evasion players, I heard a lot of people who play evasion are re-rolling to DR, but it is what it is. Hopefully I still think evasion is good. It's just not as good as DR, or like, I guess they're more on the same level nowadays. At least that's how Pearl Abyss wanted it to be. But yeah, we talked about everything, whether you're a PvPer, PvEer, Lifeskiller. Hopefully we have something for all of you, and that's about it. So once again, thanks so much for watching. If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. Love to see you guys come back. I do try to keep all my guides and stuff updated. So whether you're a new player, returning player, or someone who's just looking to get better at this game, hopefully my videos help you. And I'll see you guys tomorrow. Peace!